said, I think I can contribute to this forum. So that's how that happened. Dylan has had a pretty, I would describe him as a brave soul, a true entrepreneur. He's a true entrepreneur. He has that spirit to go after his dreams, and he has succeeded and he's failed, and both are very important to be able to deliver a message effectively, because I've had important failures too, not just great successes. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dylan Blau.
Appreciate the kind words.
Sure.
It's a pleasure to meet you guys. I've already kind of met somebody. Renee, would you mind passing that form up? I'm going to talk about distractions to kind of open up, but where I came to the last speech here, the one thing that distracted me from focusing 100% on the guy who was speaking was that I wanted to ask him questions later. I was wondering if I'm going to have time to talk. Is this going to be over? Am I in a rush to finish? So as somebody that loves to help people, that's what I do for a living, whether it's with dogs or people, I'll do a free consultation. So we can grab coffee, lunch, whatever you guys want, we'll talk, and I'd love to hear about your business, and if there's any way that I can help you grow, I'd love to do that. But that way we can kind of take that distraction off the table. You don't have to worry about kind of catching up with me later. I'll have all the time in the world for you at some point, and I'd love to help for sure. But as he said, my name is Dylan Blau. I own Arizona Dog Training, and I'm in the process of building an online education platform where dog owners, dog trainers can share their story in order to ultimately disrupt an industry right now that has a 50% return rate and ultimately profits over $65 billion. So I'm going to go over some things, but the first thing that I want to talk about is distractions, because distractions in general ultimately prevent us from taking action. So one thing is, and it's wonderful that Zilla actually jumped in the car and wanted to join me, because I didn't want to bring my dog to this speech, even though it is about how training dogs train me to be successful. One thing that I preach is control with your daily routine. So if I knew that my dog was going to be a distraction from giving the speech effectively, I really didn't want to bring her tonight, but she literally jumped in the car as I was getting it ready, and she was like, I'm coming. You're giving a speech, about the experiences that we've shared together. So I thought for a couple minutes, I was like, man, like I told myself I'm not going to bring her, and I ended up bringing her, and she's not really a distraction, but yeah, she's great. So distractions prevent us from doing certain things. With a dog, for instance, if a dog is heavily distracted on a walk, they can't even sit. They can't walk right by your side. They can barely even focus to do those basic commands. And it's very similar to us working in the workplace. And for me, I'm going to tell different parts of my story throughout the evening, but for me, one thing that always allows me to get distracted is myself. And that's what I found to be my personal trigger. Now, other people have triggers, whether it's your cell phone, right? You want to go check your Facebook. I guarantee at some point you'll get the urge to, I want to check my Facebook, I want to check my Instagram, did I get a text? We're so used to getting like instant gratification for things. So we get distracted very, very easy on a day-to-day basis. And whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner, whatever you're doing, if you're distracted, you're not able to get done the simple things that you need to get done to function. So for me, one of the things that I learned from the last speech was distractibility and its effect throughout a speech. So that's why I wanted to pass that form out and kind of talk about distractions. For me, my story, and I guess in terms of relevancy, right? I could start when I was born, and if you guys read on my website, how I got bit by a dog, and I say I have powers. There's certain things of my story that are relevant to me, and then there are certain things that are obviously relevant to getting across a message of what's actually important and how it can benefit your life. So, as much as I'd love to go into all the depths about my story, and so you can get to know me, I feel like there's only certain things that obviously make an impact. So, the one place and time that became a critical breaking point for me. I was working in a corporate job. I was running a call center out here of 60 plus salespeople. I was a manager of that business. I literally trained, hired, fired, took the phone calls, handled the back end, complaints, you name it. I did everything for this job, and I believed wholeheartedly that if I put in every single piece of effort that I had toward this job, it would pay off in the long run. And I had these, what I call them now is self-limiting beliefs, where if I go and I put in this much work, it's going to pay off, and that's as good as I'm worth, right? You know, I got a college degree, I got a job where I get to wear a suit and tie every day, I get to hire people, I get to fire them, I get to train them. This is it, right? This is like, as far as I'm concerned, that was, my parents are proud, I felt really good, I had my like 5-year reunion, bless you, I had my 5-year reunion coming up. I was really excited about myself. I was really, really proud of my accomplishments, but something was missing. I realized that I wasn't in control of my life necessarily. Whether I was achieving the accomplishments, the plan, the path that traditionally you're supposed to take after you graduate college, I still didn't feel fulfilled. And I went to college for musical theater and dance and professional acting. I did some stand-up comedy. And for me, I really liked communicating with people. I liked having a conversation where there was a two-way street. I do a lot of Facebook Live videos, and one thing that I talk about is that Facebook Live is a one-way conversation. Have any of you guys done a Facebook Live before? I know you did one when you were in Hawaii lately.
You're doing it now, is that correct?
I had to cancel it because the reception was bad, so I'm just doing a live video that I'll then load onto Facebook. But in terms of live, if you guys have done it, you're really looking at yourself for the most part. So you're having a conversation with yourself, which isn't, I guess, as beneficial, if that makes sense. So Facebook Live, and we were kind of talking about earlier, is really only effective, I find, if you're doing something like Renee did. She went to Hawaii, she's going live, jumping off of a cliff. She's going live at a volcano, and you're seeing the lava erupt. That's like a news report. It's like, we're here live in Hawaii with Renee. I feel connected to her. I wasn't able to go to Hawaii, but I felt like I was there, and I'm sharing this experience. And that's what a lot of the social media is about, is the connectivity that we share. So a lot of people who try to do social media, they don't understand the end result, which is you want to connect. You want to have communication and not just be an infomercial. So, working at that corporate job, I didn't have a lot of the socialization that I wanted. I was just running through the motions. I'm going to talk about routine tonight, and routine was so important for me back then because I would go to the typical workday. I would go there and I would have a list of probably 20 tasks that I needed to do. After I was done with those tasks, I would have an email list with probably 50 to 100 emails of people that I would need to call to resolve disputes or issues or complaints or refunds or whatever it was. I had so many tasks to do, so my time management, my routine at work needed to be effective, but there were parts of that routine that were so crucial, and I completely missed over them. And a lot of them ultimately led me to that breaking point, which was getting to close to 300 pounds. I was at the obese point, and me and my buddy looked it up right now in terms of what obese is. For my height and weight or whatever, it's 250. I was about 289, almost 290, close to 300 pounds, obese. My routine at work, because I was focused on the work, was eating pizza, eating and drinking Monster, Red Bull. I call it the path of least resistance. And I became complacent with that mediocre style of life. I'm assuming you guys are at this point. I know we were speaking earlier. What do you do specifically?
I'm a banker. I manage a corporate trust department.
Okay. I'm assuming you are in control of what you eat for lunch, or is that like something that's provided and it's a very strict routine? You get to choose?
Usually it's at my desk.
Okay. You said you get to choose when you even have lunch.
Right.
Okay, so then you're able to be in control. What about you, sir? What do you do?
Engineering of various types, mostly software. So I'm an independent contractor, basically.
Okay. Do you work from home or do you work at an office?
It varies. Depends what the job is.
But I'm assuming because you said independent contractor, you do have some independence?
Lots.
Good. And it's super important. So, you guys may not be able to relate in terms of working in a corporate world, and, like, oh man, they only serve pizza today, so that's all I can get. But I'm 30 years old. I'm still kind of young. This was, my journey over the past 10 years. So, working in the corporate world, I wasn't like, all right, let's go and I'm gonna bring a salad every day. I wasn't thinking about that. So, I did what I call sacrificing your body for the greater good of work or having money or the illusion of success. So I had a lot of these, self-limiting beliefs of just, this is as good as it gets, I've reached it, and I feel really good for myself. And it reached a point where that wasn't enough for me, and I was ready to start to transform into something else. Now, along the route, I had been training dogs. I've been training dogs for about 9 years. When I first moved out to Arizona, I was lucky. I call myself a rich Jewish kid, if you will. My parents paid my rent while I went to school, so I had an opportunity to do something with my time where I didn't have to work or stress about traditional things that most people did have to stress about. So what I was able to do is I started rescuing dogs. And my buddy who was out here also started rescuing dogs with me. And we started rescuing dogs during our free time, learning how to train them. And that kind of, ultimately started developing our methods and our business acumen, and realizing that we had a passion for working with dogs, but it wasn't a business yet, it was a hobby. I watch Shark Tank a lot, and one of the things Kevin O'Leary says is if you're not profitable after year 3, it's a hobby, it's not a business. So for me, I hadn't even started yet, but I knew that this was just a hobby. It was something my parents were funding at the time, and it was an experience that allowed me to find something that I was passionate about. And a lot of these corporate jobs that keep us structured in a very limited routine don't necessarily allow us to see the other opportunities out there. For me, a couple years ago, to hear that you can go to Hawaii to do a nonprofit event, you said you raised $5,000 doing a triathlon style, it's called a Ragmar? Relay race around Hawaii. So a relay race around Hawaii where you can raise the concept is still a little fuzzy to me. I mean, if it's fuzzy to you guys, feel free to let me know, but I don't know how she does what she does. I'm waiting for her to give a speech so I can learn what she does, because she does it unbelievably. I can't even ask for a donation. I sell hats, they're donation hats, I have a problem with it. She's going to Hawaii and raising money for a good cause. So, seeing that there are opportunities out there that everybody can experience, that you don't need to feel so confined. And what I feel is the corporate world, the structure of not being in control of your routine was embedded in us long ago. I mean, when you think about the way that we go to school, you've got a structured class of periods 1 through 8, then you've got clubs, sports, homework, you're going to bed. We're always on a routine, and it starts to fall apart after you go to college and you have to create your own routine. So this concept of routine is in our life all the time, but I find with myself specifically, I let it control me. And I worked, I'd say, close to 15-hour days. I had plenty of time. I mean, in 15 hours, if you ask me now, were you able to go get a salad? Could you go do this? I would give you an excuse for what I used to do as a style of letting that routine control me. But the bottom line is you have to start acknowledging this presence of routine in our day-to-day life. And when I first started thinking about this speech, and Andrew will attest, I wanted to call this the power of consistency, because routine is a consistent element that plays in your life every single day. Now, if you throw in your day-to-day routine, and then you throw in the distractions that are also consistent every single day, and I ask you to get one thing done that day, I'll tell you right now, there's a good chance you can't even get the one thing done, because you're not in control of your routine, you're distracted, so then you can't create action and actually, create that end result.
Not the hardest thing. That's the thing that you've been avoiding, what they call eat the frog, right? You want to eat the frog every day, which is that one thing, big thing you need. If you got done that today, each and every today, you could be incredibly productive.
It's true. There's a book called The One Thing.
Right.
I love reading it because for me, my first year in business, a lot of what I was reading was experiment as much as possible, because nobody knows who you are, so you can take the risk and see what works for you. When we were talking earlier and you said your market you found was specific, you wanted it to be a dental market, and you would experiment by saying, let's do a luncheon, let's do a breakfast and get everybody to come, I would experiment 50 different ways with the breakfast. Maybe a banana the first day, coffee the second day, and I'm coming in and I brought a coffee for myself. I mean, I'm bringing it for you, but I'm coming to talk. It's coffee talk. That's the whole point. But I would experiment, right? If you have one idea that you know could potentially work and there's some money there, I experimented like crazy. So when Andrew introduced me and said I failed and I succeeded, very, very true. I have failed many, many times and learned from that. And that's kind of helped me with dog training. So to jump back to dog training for a second, I don't train with shock, choke, prong, e-collars. I don't even use treats. I custom make my own leash, and that was part of my problem-solving mentality. But for me, I can only really be passionate about something that I believe in. Bottom line, I mean, as somebody, I have a very strong sales background. It was hard for me to sell other people's products if I couldn't believe it, if I couldn't use it. When I moved to California, I had to sell a Kirby, and I felt like I was like drawing blood. You said, what? Yeah, the Kirby vacuum, it's $3,000. You can drop it a little bit, but they want you to take 2,000 circle pads or something while you're there to show how dirty your house is. And it's like, this is a hard sale. And maybe it's because I saw somebody come in and like give a hard sales pitch where they're like, listen, do you want to be a good mom or a good wife? What? What? You're selling the vacuum. Why are you talking about her, as a wife or a husband? And she goes, listen, if you want to be a good mother, you'll get the vacuum because you're cleaning the air for your kid. If you want to be a good wife, you'll listen to your husband. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is not good sales. This is not a product I want to be forcing down people's throats. So you have to believe in what you're doing. So for me, training dogs and helping people was something that I believed in. But when I started training dogs, many years ago with my buddy, he learned e-collar training. And other methods that can potentially cause pain. So for me, what has led me to success with dog training is keeping an open mind that I don't have to use what other people are using. And ultimately, that open mindset allowed me to find other solutions. And that was an opportunity for success for me where other people hadn't done that. This was over 2 years ago. My good friend who owns Philadelphia Dog Training, he makes over $200,000 a month, on dog training. $200,000 a month. He charges $10,000 per client. He does a minimum of 20 every 30 days. But he uses the e-collar training, and what he told me is if I don't follow the trend of dog training and go with e-collar training, I'll be out of business in 3 months or less. This was over 2 years ago, and he actually ended up struggling with business a lot more than I had over that period of time. So, where other people say you can't do something or there's not a market for it, one of my favorite inspirational, I wouldn't call him a speaker necessarily, but when he speaks, even though it's a few words, as far as I'm concerned, it's inspiration, is Mark Cuban. I watch Shark Tank religiously. But one thing that I noticed about Mark Cuban, what he says on his books, is he looks for what's called as a disruptive business. He's not looking for somebody who's riding the bull market, as he says, because at some point, if you're an accessory to other businesses, you're only an accessory, right? So this is a MacBook Pro. If I make an accessory to the MacBook, all I am is just a part of something that's already working, right? I want to compete with Apple. If I'm going to become a technological company, I want to do something that they're not doing. And we're kind of seeing that actually with T-Mobile right now. They can't compete with Verizon. It's been proven. You cannot compete with Verizon in terms of coverage, the amount of service that you're going to get. We know Verizon is the best. So what T-Mobile is doing is their CEO, I don't know if you guys have seen it lately, he's now got long hair, he's wearing pink shirts, and he was just on Facebook Live doing, I'm cooking ribs, and he was just talking, and he's just being charismatic, and they show him as in a business suit, looking like an Ivy League graduate, and then you see him now, and he has, it looks like me when I was in my 20s. He has long hair, and he's just got this crazy expression, and they're talking about how
They believe that is going to make people sign up?
I think they're trying really hard to not let T-Mobile go bankrupt, but they are doing something different, if that makes sense. So you have to ultimately experiment and try things that are different, and not do things that everyone else is doing. And social media, I think, is a hard thing to take. So to get back to me, right, to be a little selfish here for a second, I'm going to compare myself to a dog for a second, because there are really two types of dogs that I notice for the most part. I am what they call an excited dog. I'm more distracted by my excitement of maybe what I want to say or what I'm thinking of. I'm a problem solver. I've got dogs at my house right now. I'm thinking what's going on. I've got other business things moving around. There's a lot of moving pieces. So for me, like I said, I'm my biggest distraction. So when I think about a dog, I would almost compare myself more to the dog that you have back there, a lab that just can do amazing things, right? I trained a lab once to dive 12 feet underwater, but when I first got the dog, it was afraid of water because it didn't know what to do with itself. It just was in the state of, I'm just all over the place. But if you focus that energy, they have the drive, they have the motivation. I've seen labs do incredible things once you focus that energy, and I find that humans are the same. For the most part, everybody can do incredible things. I mean, we were talking about David Blaine holding his breath for 17 minutes. Sounds crazy, but you could do it. And
It is crazy.
Yeah, and you talk about practice, but the way that he did that, you know, it's 3 months of practice. Every day, he said for an hour, what he would do is he would purge. So he would literally go, and he would get all the oxygen, CO2 out of his, and hold his breath for 5 minutes. So it would only take 8 breaths an hour. And that's what he did for 3 months. And then he went on Oprah and he did his thing and he talked to himself and he talks about it. But, you know, we can do all these amazing things if we take out the distractions. So for me, my distraction is me. And, you know, whatever you guys have is your distraction, whether it's an emotion, right? A lot of us have emotions. And I find dogs are very, very similar, even though they have different styles of emotion and the way that dog psychology works. Is different than human psychology. Yes?
Dylan, I would say half, maybe nearly half of the people, of all the people that I've mentored, their greatest distraction is them. Would you say?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. And you know, we mentor a lot of startups and small business owners, and you know, a mentor goes in thinking, oh, I'm going to help their business. If you don't help them, you're not going to get anywhere. And that is such a common problem that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I call it learning how to get out of your own way.
Very true. I mean, you have to. And I find, so, you know, in the honesty of telling my story, years ago, I used to smoke cigarettes. Now they disgust me. I mean, if I smell it, it actually makes me feel like I'm smelling like dog poop. Mm-hmm. And I get that like, ew, gross, cigarettes. And that's how I had to quit. I moved out to Arizona. It was so hot. The heat of the cigarette mixed with the heat of Arizona, it didn't mix. Didn't make sense to me. And for me, the smell that I got just from an Arizona cigarette grossed me out. And that was it for me. I never had to smoke cigarettes again. So I get the same feeling now when I'm sitting down and I'm not doing something. Like I try to be productive every hour. I want to do something productive every hour. And if I'm not, right? I'm going to tell you guys a story at the end of the most recent thing that's going on with me, but the guy's house that I was at, JP Sears, he hasn't had a TV in his house for 13 years. Just think about that for a second. No TV in your house for 13 years. Now, when I was at his house, it was the most amazing experience ever, and it was like this quietness, just like this. It was still, what was that?
Does he have a computer?
He does have a computer, but like doesn't watch Netflix, uses it for like doing a video like this and that's it. Like, you know, like people that are famous on YouTube, you wouldn't believe they don't use their phones.
Look, I mean, I find the most productive human beings don't have televisions.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
no question about that.
I'm going through a transformation. Like I said, I'm 30. I owned over 3,000 Blu-rays. I love film. Like I said, I was a musical theater and dance major. There's something about movies, art. I wouldn't be able to do this speech right now if I hadn't seen the movie Milk. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Milk. Sean Penn, he plays Harvey Milk, the first openly gay official to win in San Francisco. But there's a moment in that movie where he goes to get the endorsement and the sponsorship of other gay men, and they say, this isn't the way to go about it. You're not going to do it. You're never going to win. You got to do small steps. He goes, listen, you know, I don't think you get it. He goes, I'm not the candidate. The movement is the candidate. I'm just part of the movement, and there's a difference. You may not see it, but I do. And that moment transformed me from a dog trainer to more of an activist who's thinking about politics in the next couple of years, because my personal movement right now is the fact that 1.5 million dogs get rescued every year. Half of them get returned. Zill, come here. You had your limit? Over half of them get returned.
So
96.
750,000 dogs.
750,000 dogs.
Every year get returned.
Yes.
Back to the shelters themselves.
No, back to the shelter.
Oh, back to the shelter.
Yes, so there's a 50% return rate. So if you rescue a dog, odds are 50% it's going to get returned. Now most rescue centers, they kill if it's a 2-time return. So there are over 2 million dogs that get killed every single year. Somebody just went on tour saying that it's 8,000 dogs and cats a week that get killed in the United States of America, in an industry that profits $65 billion. So far as I'm concerned, if we're on Shark Tank right now, and I said, listen, I'd love you guys to invest in my company. I have a $65 billion a year last year, but I have a 50% return rate, and all of the other sales where people said it wasn't a good product, we just burned that stuff. So, would you like to invest? As far as I'm concerned, that's a failed business. That's not a successful business. And the more I looked into it, the more I started seeing similarities in the education system, similarities with the prison industry, and there's a real foundation for how we educate and prepare dog owners or people coming out of the prison, or even the people in America in our education system. So education's everything, which is kind of why I jumped all over this opportunity, and it's why I do free lessons for my dog training clients, is to give that education so at least you have some information. I talked about dog emotions being different than human emotions, and one of the concepts that I feel like it has more human synchronicity than I'd like to admit. And I'm going to ask you guys to be honest for a second to see if this is something that you guys find yourself doing also in a group of people. With a dog, what I say is, if a dog is, and its tail is down, that means it's anxious. It's like somebody who's hunched or insecure, they're down, they're looking at their phone, they can't speak up, they're shy, they're monotone, somebody like that. In a dog, I don't give affection. Because if you give affection to a dog, empathy, compassion, when they're in a bad state of mind, you're telling them it's okay to feel that way, and you're enhancing that state of mind. And I've found that I do the same thing with humans. If I'm in a group of people and you're doing something that I don't like, or you're not doing something that's like motivational or beneficial, or like you're just talking about like, hey, I want to like go drinking tonight, it could be a good time. I don't like, the words you're saying are wasting my time. And I find that I allow myself to be almost like a receptacle for choosing what is a good behavior and what is a bad behavior around my friends, and whether they admit it or not, they've been dog trained one way or another. And it's funny, I mean, no joke. I mean, not to put anyone on blast, I'm not going to name any names. One of my roommates, he's a little bit heavy set. He was also in the same position that I am. He was close to 300 pounds. He's in the low 280s right now. He's lost over 20 pounds, got a new job. He's, getting everything together, doing stuff. But his behavior, when he lost his job, long story short, he had a job, went gambling, won a ton of money, took a little bit of a vacation, and now he's transitioning back into a job that doesn't really want to go with the corporate world. And I could totally understand, but his behaviors were a little, just like a dog. It was I'm starting to get stressed, I'm anxious, man, there's a lot on my mind, the bills are piling up, and you start to have this like dog with a tail between its legs. And what I notice is, if we baby, right, if we enable each other, it doesn't really help. So I mean, on a real note, do you guys find that there are friends that you guys hang out with or just socialize with where they may not be on the same level as you, and that irritates you? Like, it actually makes you feel something. What's your experiences, or without calling anybody out, or just like what is it? Was it like when you were out to dinner, or when you had people over? What was the?
It was just like at work, actually, because I'm still working full time, and plus I have my business, so I have a low tolerance of discussion about this job sucks or
Yeah.
like, okay, I gotta get up, because that negativity and all of that, I can't hear it, because I'm trying to do something positive over here. So I need people around me that's gonna be positive and motivated and say, okay, we're gonna do something different.
It's true.
But what about, and I'm not saying you're wrong, because I get what you're saying, but what about, people, if they're your friends and you care about them, saying something, interrupting them and saying something, giving them the awareness of what they're doing, and saying, when you do that, I have to be completely honest with you, it kind of turns me off, and I would guess it does others when you're negative all the time. Try being positive and see how that makes you feel. So I think it's worth a moment at least, if it's a friend
Oh,
or a
Well,
family
you know,
member.
I always give out, try to be motivated and say, hey, you know, you got this skill, you know, maybe we can look for another job or give them kind of advice. But sometimes when you're in that state of mind, you don't really listen. You know, you're just gonna go back and fall back to the negativity,
And
right?
their defenses will get up too, I'm sure, if you say something.
Right.
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, in some scenario too, misery loves company. And so there's probably somebody out there that wants to
True.
latch onto you because it makes them feel better.
Oh, it's true. We want to be part of a group. If I
Exactly.
start complaining right now about something,
But
you could all join in.
I've often found that a lot of people who speak negativity and misery, they are not aware of how much they're speaking.
Right. Or the effects it has on others.
Correct. So I think it takes someone close to them to kind of do that. Now, I'm not saying for the purposes of the discussion of this class that we need to
Every
talk
case
about
is
that,
different.
But I just thought I would interject because if it's somebody you love, it really is worth having a very frank conversation.
And you have to have that open communication.
Mhm.
Yes.
I listened to a guy by the name of Sam. By the name of Sam Glenn one time speak at a conference, keynote speaker.
Okay.
And he's called the Attitude Guy. Go up and look him up. He is great, but he actually talks about how important attitude is and how it paves the way, not only for you, but it's contagious with others too. If you can keep that positive attitude and that upbeat tempo.
Especially when the chips are down.
Exactly, that's the most
It's the most important thing you can do.
Especially when the chips are
Yeah.
down.
And that's hard to do.
It's very hard to do, and I mean, I'll be completely honest. So my business is transformed a lot. Okay, my mission was to help people, to help dogs, and to reduce the amount of dogs that got returned every year to the shelter. So for me, I wasn't really running a business. I was running just a service to help and give out free prizes to everybody, and it'll work out in the end. As a Jewish person, mitzvah, which is just doing good deeds, is something that resonates with me. Very much so, and I love that. Help the old lady across the street. If somebody needs some advice, give them some advice, you know. So for me, that was something that definitely resonated. But yeah, I find you definitely have to be positive. I took a job right out of college, and I went home a little bit, so I took a job for fun. It was a door-to-door job, and it's kind of crazy why I would go door-to-door for fun, but the people were so positive, you couldn't be negative around them. They would call you being negatorist, negatopoulos. They would all these nicknames for being negative. Don't be negging around us. They would send you home if you're negative, but it wasn't allowed because if you're going door to door, could you imagine if you're knocking on doors in the summer and one guy's like, yeah, I just made $500. Where are you at? Nothing. Oh yeah, it sucks to be you. How's it going? Like, you know, like they train you like,
Right.
listen, knock on the door and like make yourself smile. And they open the door, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. And like you want to like at least have that positivity, but yeah, I mean, that I totally agree with that. You know, I mean, you want to, you have to talk positive, and whether you're at work or yeah, I mean, if you're with your friends, granted, like I have almost like I would say weekly meetings, and we don't even call them like weekly meetings, but we still meet and we talk and we start airing out little things that need to be discussed so that we can, you know, go forth and continue and do more because, and I'm going to go more into it when I talk about socialization, but the way we interact within a group is very, very important. Before I kind of, you know, move off a routine and talk about motivation, did you guys have any questions about routine? Yeah.
You talked about there's two different kinds of dogs, but I think you only told us about one.
I did.
One dog that has the
Distraction.
shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
And then what's the other dog?
Yeah, so
Where's the squirrel? Where's the
exactly, right? The dog from Up, right? They're so happy that they want to, you know, like do everything. And then there's the dog with the tail down that is shut down from fear, right? So public speaking is one of the number one fears. People, you know, would rather die than come up here and speak. For me, this is like so comfortable. I could be up here forever. He might have to like turn off the lights. And get me out here. Like, I like it. This is like a comfortable spot for me. So for me, I'm that excited lab versus somebody who's I'm too scared to do this. Let's reschedule. You know, like, right? So the hunch, the down. So that's somebody who's allowing their fear, their anxiety, their limiting beliefs, the things that are stopping them and preventing them, that are distracted in another way. I think there are two different types of distractions. There's the excited distraction, and then there's the emotional distraction. Zilla right now is completely calm, relaxed. If I scared her and sent her into a scared state of mind, she would shut down. And when we shut down, like we were kind of describing, we become more emotional, we get defensive. And in a dog, what they do is they go fight or flight. So a person who is in that anxious state of mind, it's almost like if I was up here like this, like, look at me funny. I'll throw one of these punches at you, or look at me funny. I'm leaving. I'm out. Anybody look at? I'm going.
Which is why they get aggressive and fight.
Yeah, I just got bit like a week ago, for the second time. It's been an interesting year. I got bit on the finger by a little white Yorkie. I mean, this thing literally, it's just spoiled. They have 8 kids in the house running around. This little dog is like scared to death of everything. They drop it off for boarding for, the weekend or whatever, and the dog gets loose in the house. Scared of being let's just be real here. The dog was scared because it was let loose in the house. It was free. Here's the home. The house is huge. I'm scared, right? So when I went to grab the collar to help it, it bit me and it tore three things out of my finger. But you have to work through the fear, right? You can't allow, oh my God, it bit me and react to that. You kind of, work through that. But yeah, dogs, and they don't want you. So my immediate reaction after it bit me and I wrapped it up is I'm going, man, anyone else got bit by that dog, they would be cursing like that little frickin' dog. Oh, get rid of it. You would be so because we get emotional. We're emotional human beings, but sometimes our emotions are not from understanding. They're just off of how we feel, right? I got some pain, so I'm feeling something. I want to transfer that pain onto the dog. The dog really had nothing to do with it. It was in a state of mind where it bit me out of fear. It didn't want to bite me. It bit me because it was in that fear state of mind. And that sometimes happens with coworkers. Sometimes somebody will lash out with you, right? They have a bad day. Their ex just broke up with them. They didn't get the raise. They didn't get the promotion. And then they take it out on you, right? It's called projecting. It's okay. People do it all the time. A lot of what people say to us is a form of projecting, Thank you for showing up. But yeah, so by all means, yeah, the 2 types of dogs are the excited dog, who has so much, and to give you another example of the excited dog and how that's me, when I came to the speech this was, I believe in August, I came to the speech, I was so excited because I wanted to do this also. And when I talked to Andrew, I said, listen, whatever, I emailed this guy, no joke, a list of stuff that I wanted to talk about. It was a list. Let me talk about
30
this.
things.
30 things. He goes, you're crazy.
I didn't pick one.
He didn't pick one of them. Didn't pick one of them, but I was so excited because I had so much I wanted to tell people. I've been reading books. Let me tell you about this marketing idea. Let me tell you about Facebook Live. Let me tell you about Instagram. So many things, but it's too much, right? So for me, that's the overwhelming dog. I'm so crazy, right? And that's not what we want to reward, right? You wouldn't reward that behavior. Now think about that in a greeting, right? If you're coming over and I said, hey, listen, thanks for coming to the speech, I really appreciate it, right? Versus, hey, how's it going? I'm super excited that you're here. What's going on? We're going to do something later. Awesome, I'll talk to you later, buddy. It's a weird reaction, right? If I came up and I'm more huggy feely, oh, wow, it's good to be here. It's too much. It's too much. You wouldn't respond positively. If I'm trying to be taken serious as a public speaker, a life coach, a dog trainer, can't be doing that. You need to hide. That's the manners. Same thing with the dog.
That depends on the individual because everybody reacts differently to those kind of things.
That's true.
And so that's the hard thing is trying to be able, and it's the same thing with dogs, being able to know what their temperament and what they can and can't accept.
It's true, but at the same time, think about what you'd like better. If you showed up to somebody's house for a dinner event and their dogs, 3 golden retrievers, came running up to you just like I did, or my dog who doesn't even care, is just laying down, and then you can go, oh, cute dog. Give it the affection, right? There's a proper introduction, and then there's overexcitement and not knowing what to do with it, right? And that's the difference.
Well, and most people play it safe because they don't know it, so you try to be the most conservative. So until you get to understand and know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Yeah. So the example of me being an excited dog, the reason that I find that that's relevant is because when I first started my business, what I did was as much as possible every single day. I was working 18-hour days. I would wake up at 5 in the morning, go to bed at 11:30, 12. I had 30 dogs in my house. I walked each of them about 4 times a day. It's close to 100 walks a day, on top of posting pictures, doing lessons, taking phone calls, and trying to create a business as a startup and do a proof of concept. Craziness, absolute craziness. When I tell you the first year of business, I don't think being an entrepreneur is for everybody. You know, it's a trial and error type of thing. I mean, I've gone through a business partner, and now that I'm doing it on my own, I find that I'm more successful. So you have to kind of acknowledge that it is a trial and error. You have to experiment. And the one thing I can say is you have to believe in yourself. And I think that's what we were kind of talking, get out of your way a little bit. Whenever it get right, it's almost the end of the month. It's the 25th. We're getting close to rent's due, bills are due, right? For me, right, I'm a business owner. I'm not getting a paycheck from somebody, right? So I'm thinking, man, like, oh my God, I got to stress? Or could I just double down and believe in myself and go, listen, you've been doing this for 3 years. Odds are you're going to get a client in the next couple days, and you have to just believe in yourself versus stressing out. So it's very important that you have that belief in yourself, and most importantly that you control your routine. And before I transition, I'm going to kind of break down the routine in a couple other little ways. One thing that I learned,
I have a question. Can you be in both states at the same time, like excitement and
like an introvert and an extrovert at the same time?
You could have one foot in of each.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think anybody should be categorized. I don't think I'm just a dog trainer. I don't think you're just what you do. You know, everybody has limitless potential to do lots of things. So, yeah, by all means, you can be the scared dog. You can be the happy dog. There are times where I feel like a dog that's just been in a crate and doesn't get any love. Like, I've been working for a month straight, and no one's even giving me a hug. I haven't seen my parents in 3 years. I might go home for Thanksgiving this year, but I've worked so much that I'm like, man, like I'm a dog with no affection. Just at the rescue center, no one wants me. I'm all matted, you know, like I find, you know, like I find.
I'm hearing you, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and so I think that's a good segue to motivation, right? But real quick on routine, you have to find ways to control it, and if you want to start small, find your vices. I drink coffee every single day. I take a day off, because I don't want to find myself going, well, I need my coffee. Well, I need my coffee. Well, I need my breakfast. Well, I need my vice, right? You don't. Take a day off. So, I mean, the one thing I would say in terms of how to control your routine, before you get to the big things where you can accomplish one thing a day, right? That book, One Thing, it tells you if you're going to make a list, and if I said make a list right now of 10 things that you should do tomorrow, now pick the one thing that's super important to get done that'll actually move you forward in business. That's what's important. So in order for you to be able to get one thing done every single day that's beneficial, you have to take care of the rest, which is controlling your routine.
You know, one thing I learned is
One thing you've learned.
is instead of maybe focusing on the negative routines that you have, add a positive routine, and if you can stick to that positive routine, add another one, and keep doing that, and then the negative ones, believe it or not, they simply just stop because
Go away.
you're adding the positive ones. So if you focus on, talk about positivity, if you can just add one small one, and then make it a bigger and bigger and bigger one, and then do it again, all those negative ones, they start falling off.
Was it in the one thing where they said it takes 66 days to create a habit, and that the original do-it-yourself books say that it takes 21 days, 28 days, 30 days, but that's not scientifically proven. It technically takes 66 days to reach a sweet spot for any behavior.
To become a habit.
Yeah, to become a habit where it's effortless, right? If you want to eat a banana every morning, it's going to be difficult and something you have to program in your mind for like the first 30 days. On day 66, you just grab that banana. And that's something that I applied for reading. I hated reading books because my routine association was you read a book at bedtime. Right? That's what my parents always told me, read a book at bedtime. Guess what? By bedtime, I'm tired. So I'm reading, tired after a page. Now my eyes are even more tired, and I go to bed, so I hate reading. I didn't. I hated the concept of reading and when I was supposed to read. So what I did is I changed my routine when I realized, like, man, like, I need to start making some changes because I can't read at night, but I need to read. I added reading when I eat. So I eat maybe one meal a day. I'll go out, and that's what I'll do, and I'll bring a book with me. You what?
You eat one meal a day?
About, yeah. Sometimes not even.
There's a scientific basis.
Yeah, no, not eating is way better than eating,
Yeah.
especially letting food control you. I haven't had anything.
That's a whole, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, so right in routine, right, so many times people will go, I'm hungry, you're bored, you're not hungry, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you've already had a coffee and you had breakfast. What are you possibly hungry for? All I had today was, I'm pretty sure, a bulletproof coffee. It's 3 teaspoons of grass-fed butter and French press coffee blended up with MCT oil, and that's it. I won't be hungry probably till I leave here, and then I'll get some food. And when yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I have sustainable energy because it's a healthy source of fat and the right oils like avocado, coconut, stuff like that. But for me, as somebody who lost over 100 pounds, I mean, I did Insanity to do that. And that's a 60-day program where you're working out every single day. So for me, eating and staying healthy is something that I have to be aware of because it is something that you can fall into a routine so easy. For instance, when I turned 30, I was lifting weights every single day. I said by the time I'm 30, I want to be in the best shape of my life. That's one of my goals because I wanted to reach 30, and I had a best friend who, when she reached 30, she like panicked. She was like, oh my God, my life's falling apart. I don't know where I am. I'm 30 and I don't have a job yet. I don't know what I'm doing. And she kind of freaked out. For me, I wanted to hit 30 like, all right, let's do this. Like, I'm ready. Like, people are going to take me serious. So for me, that was a big thing, is working out. But when I had my birthday, I took a day off. And guess what? I didn't work out the next day. And it took like a week just to get back into the routine of working out. So where it takes 66 days to create a sweet spot, only takes a day to break your habit. You know, it doesn't take much at all. So being aware is the only thing that I've learned that will allow me to jump back on that moving train of progression.
Well, I think falling off the horse is normal, and if you don't judge yourself, you know, you just get back on it.
Yeah.
Just get back up on the horse.
Yeah.
You
If
know?
you miss once, you can salvage it. If you miss twice in a row, it becomes infinitely harder.
No question. And it's
Three times
geometric. It becomes geometrically harder.
Yeah, so routine is super, super important. So for me, little things that you guys can start with is taking out something that you call a vice, or something that you think like, man, like if you didn't, like think about it, if it's Monday morning and you didn't have blank, take that out for a day, right? If I didn't have my coffee today, God, this day's gonna suck, right? If that's like your attitude, like it's Monday, I forgot to get my favorite Pop-Tart. Like if there's something that you like really feel that you need to have, take one day, not the whole week, just one day, right? And I do that every single week with coffee, and I'll pick a random day so that it's not the same, because I love bulletproof coffee. I do feel the energy. It also gives me even more energy than I like sometimes. So I'll be like, listen, like I think today is the day off. I'm going to take the day off so I'm not in control. So that's super important, is to eliminate things that are in your day-to-day routine, because they can start to control you, and that's something you don't want.
I know it's like my routine. I get bored very easily doing the same thing over and over again. So I have to change up my routine. By Wednesday, I have to change it because I get.
Do you mean work? Do you mean your personal life? What specifically?
Like I said, I'm still working, so it's like, oh, I gotta get up at 6 o'clock. I'm getting up at 6 o'clock every day. You know, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So I have to change up my routine every now and then.
Gotcha.
So I won't get bored.
And you go business to business from what we
Yeah.
discussed, right? So you go business to business every day. You're on your own schedule, so you have a lot of opportunity to add some fun little activities throughout your day. One thing that works for a lot of people, books on tape. It's a great way to learn. Also, social media is something that a lot of business owners and a lot of people haven't had before in their entire life. The fact that I can go on Facebook Live with a click of a button and someone else can watch this speech, technology is phenomenal. So where I find real mentors, like Andrew and Renee and all people that are tangible, right? I can call him up. There's also people on the internet that are doing videos, that are talking, that have something of substance to say that you can learn from. Most of the time I'm on my phone. Like, I'll be with a group of people and I'll know that they're on their phone and I'll look, they're playing games, they're playing fishing, right? Or they're doing Pokemon Go, or they're doing something on their phone. When I'm on my phone, people go, Dylan, you're on your phone 24/7. I'm doing business on the phone, whether I'm learning something, whether I'm posting something, whether I'm emailing. You want to be productive with it, so it's very important, for sure. Yeah.
Most of all the stuff you're talking about is self-mastery, which is
Yeah.
the greatest challenge for all of us to try to do that. And as we try to do that, of course, you're going to have your ups and downs, low and whatever. But but you gotta be able to figure out what your motivators are.
Exactly.
And you've gotta have some, because everybody will try harder when they have
Hence
a
his next
motivator
topic.
to try
Yeah.
to get to.
Well, you actually just nailed it completely. Motivation, as much as I'm going to talk about motivation, it's 100%
You can think
from
of it.
within, right? As much as I want to tell you guys, listen, you guys can go do this, you can go do that, you can achieve the dreams, you can go to fly to Hawaii and raise money, you can do all this. The only way it's going to happen is if you do it. So I'm going to start this off by saying something that I hear from a lot of people, that when I ask them what their business is, when I ask them what they want to accomplish, what their dream is, the number one thing is they compare themselves to somebody, and they say, well, this person's doing what I'm trying to do, and so that's what's going on. Take a moment and think about how powerful those words are. This person's doing what I'm trying to do. That person's doing it, you're trying to do it. Are you even doing it? Look at it like cigarettes for a second. I am trying to quit smoking cigarettes versus I'm quitting cigarettes versus I quit cigarettes, right? So words are very, very important, and I think words have a lot to do with our physical actions. Daniel Eisen, one of the guys that I got to work with, he says everything that we say is a form of a prayer, more or less. Which is a very interesting concept to think about, but in that example of, man, he's doing what I'm trying to do, what does that say about me? You know, when I went to his house, the one word he told me to take out of my speech is the word try. He said, I went there and he said, so what are you doing? I said, well, I'm trying to come up with a solution for this dog industry. I'm trying to be a public figure. I'm trying. You aren't doing anything, clearly. There's people doing it, and there's people not doing it, and then you're in the middle just trying or talking about it. So when I mentor people, when I talk to them, if they've given me, if we've met back to back for a couple weeks and they start saying the same thing, so I've been doing this, I've been trying to do this, I was thinking about doing this, and I thought about that, but what did we actually do? What was actually tangible? So I find, just like you said, motivation has to come from within. Whether you want to lose 100 pounds, that's only going to happen if you want to lose 100 pounds. I don't care if you have a hot girl that you want to get with at some point, or there's a hot guy, whatever it is, you still have to motivate yourself to actually do that, to lift the weights, to eat healthy, to make those self-choices. And for me, I'm programming myself like a robot, so when I get to a store and I'm like, great, it's my one meal for the day, do I want to eat this? It's not grass-fed meat. Ugh. I'm not going to eat that because I know that there could be toxins in the fat of that meat, or I don't want to eat fast food because I've worked too hard to not eat fast food. Why would I do that now? Even thinking before this speech, I'm like, listen, I'm hungry. Should I stop and get something? No, I don't want to do that. I want to stay true to myself. So by all means, motivation has to come from within. And one of the questions that I wrote on my board when I lost weight was a concept of, if you want to be taken serious, you have to take yourself serious. And it's a, kind of a concept that, for me, woke me up a little bit. And I was getting annoyed because I was doing dog training lessons. And when you're doing dog training lessons, real big, and you're like, listen, it's a lifestyle. You need to walk the dog multiple times a day. You have to be active. You have to do, yeah, you have a water or towel. I was big. When I transitioned, I left the corporate world, I was close to 300 pounds, and that's when I took the risk to become a dog trainer. And I had one dog in a boot camp, but I was doing these lessons. And I was close to 300 pounds, I could barely breathe, and I'm talking about a lifestyle and what you need to do, and I felt like such a hypocrite. So for me, you have to, challenge yourself. So for me, that motivation of, man, I want to be taken serious. How come my information isn't getting across, right? Even tonight, if you guys see me on social media, I wear a bright green tank top, I wear one of those hats, I typically wear a dog tag necklace, I wear bright colored shorts, I wear bright colored shoes. I look like a billboard from what one of my mentors told me. You what?
I didn't know you had anything else in your closet.
It's true. The funny thing is, I have over 20 of those tank tops, and I've got 6 of these shirts just in case I switch my wardrobe to something traditional. I have 2 in white, I have 2 in gray, and I've got 6 in the black. It's Banana Republic, Pima Cotton, feels so good. And I know it's my go-to. I call it the Vinny Chase. If you guys know Entourage at all, you gotta have a go-to. Think about Steve Jobs, think about Mark Zuckerberg, all these millionaires who don't let their routine of picking out what they have to wear every day. How many hours a day do you guys spend? Even if a guy, I don't care what you're saying, how long did it take you to get dressed just to come here tonight? Or did you come straight from work?
I came right from work.
Came right from work. So in the morning, do you have an entire, you have it picked out the night before, or how long does it take you?
Yep.
Night
Maybe
before.
15 minutes, not very long.
15 minutes. So if you didn't even have to take 15, cut it down by 5. Took you 1 minute? That's my man, I like that. How many of those white shirts do you own though? A lot of them.
Well, that's the joke. I got 21 Christmas. So.
That's smart though. I mean, to be completely honest,
All
I mean,
my socks are black.
yeah.
All my socks are black. You know, my underwear.
It's a distraction. If you guys are spending multiple hours trying to pick out what to wear, it's a distraction. If I knew what I was going to wear to this speech a long time ago. If I was thinking hours before this speech, what am I going to wear? Oh my God, is it going to be the red pants? Is it going to be the khaki? What is it going to be? I'm now distracted and I didn't get to think about what I wanted to think about, which is, was there anything else I wanted to say tonight? You know, is Zilla going to come? You know, she's literally just laying there. Could care less. She's looking out the window. You had a question?
Yeah, so motivation and dogs.
Motivation and dogs. Thanks for bringing me back on track. So motivation with dogs is very similar to with humans. A dog will not do anything if they are distracted by their fears, their phobias, or their overexcitement. But the way that I motivate a dog without using shock, choke, prong, e-collars, or even treats is I communicate with the dog effectively. That's one of the most important things that you have to have with the dog is the communication. The other thing with dog training, whether or not you want to use a positive reward-based system using treats, right? You know, like go out and buy yourself jewelry every single time you get a, you know, something like that's great and all. But I found it was little rewards, little small situations of instant gratification or any type of accomplishment, if you will. So even reading a book, don't try to read a book. Read 10 pages. When you've finished 10 pages, now you can reach another 10 pages, and throughout that book, you've reached small goals. And it's very similar to working with a dog in the fact that you want to give them small goals and less opportunity to focus on what they haven't accomplished. So for me, one thing that I do consistently with dogs is I will give them many different opportunities to do things. Whether I'm on the walk, if they get frustrated, if I wanted Zilla to place on one of these chairs, if she looks at me like she's confused, it's because she doesn't necessarily know what I expect from her. So it's my job to communicate. So what I find in a correlation that I would say, I'm assuming you have some employees that work for you?
I have 4.
Okay. Anybody else here have employees that work for them? You've had some employees, I've had some, Renee. So that relationship, that dynamic that you have of the employer and the employee is very similar to the role of the dog owner and the dog. There has to be a dynamic of trust, of safety, where they're able to focus and see what your role is and what their role is. The number one reason dogs get returned is because the first thing we do is we give them affection, which tells them however they're feeling at that moment to continue feeling. And if they're not feeling good because they're out of shelter and everyone's barking and screaming, now they're in a bad state of mind, so they end up getting returned.
So you pay a lot of attention to the dog. You listen more with your eyes and everything else, and then figure out a response based on what your feedback is.
Yeah, and I would have to say that so for instance, a lot of people who say, I have an untrainable dog, right? I have a dog that is completely untrainable. I can't do anything with it. He has some issues. He's not trainable. So that type of a dog, right, that dog needs motivation. But the motivation comes from moving out the distractions that were in the way, right? So let's just use her as an example. She's motivated to do stuff, but unless she can get past the things that prevent her from acting out the motivation that she has, we're all motivated, right? We all want to travel. We all want, something, right? It may not be money, it might not be fame, whatever it is. We all want something that motivates us, but what's preventing us from ultimately acting out what motivates us and what we want out of life are those self-limiting beliefs, those fears, those phobias, the anxiety that we have, the people who tell us you can't do that. And that's ultimately the same thing. So, for instance, when I watch a video on somebody who's trained a dog or needs help, every dog in my mind can be trained the same way anybody can't have a genius idea, but they can certainly achieve more. And when I was working in that corporate world, that complacency with mediocrity is a concept that enables us to really just be okay with the small instant gratifications that we get, right? You go to your work, they buy a pizza, you're excited because you got fed at work. You're like, oh my God, they fed me at work, that was awesome. Like, that's a small gratification. Oh my God, I got a $25 bonus on my check, instant gratification. I feel really excited about it. But it's not a long-term accomplishment. It's not something that's actually paying off for you to better your life, yeah.
So this is true. So I did a consulting assignment with Bloomberg. If you work at Bloomberg, number one, every office is the same. Doesn't matter if you're in Dubai, China, or New York City. Everybody gets 3 feet of desk space. There are no offices. But they feed you. Like, there's food everywhere. Now it's healthy because Bloomberg doesn't like snacks. However, what most people don't realize is to get in and out of any Bloomberg building and on certain floors, you have to badge. So in the Bloomberg system itself, if you are an employee and I want to find you, you're tracked. If you happen to be on a special floor, or I know when you're in and out of the building. And they use it the food is to keep people in the building.
Yeah, a form of control.
So it's a major form of control.
Yeah, but I find that food sometimes, I mean, at a smart business like that, if you know how to effectively get people to produce results, that's one thing, but I find sometimes jobs that feed you consistently and put you in a situation where you don't have to think for yourself, you do become comfortable with those. And it's not necessarily about workflow, because a company that feeds you 24/7, the company that I worked for and ran, we were doing millions of dollars of sales and they had pizza every single day. So food does, in a sense, kind of keep you motivated, but what it does is it keeps you comfortable with that mediocrity, if you will. And for me, that was something that I didn't really like, is that complacency with mediocrity. And for me, so I was the manager, right? I ran the company, but there was a lower level of people that would come into work in the morning and they wouldn't even turn their computers on. If the computer wasn't on and ready to go, they would wait for somebody to come turn it on and set it up for them, because my job is to show up and plug in my password. If the computer's off, I'm assuming it's broken, and are we not here to make money? It's a commission job. I don't know how you could sit in a chair for an hour and wait because your computer's not on. I don't know what to do. Log out, log back in. I'm telling you, the things that I had to do as a manager, because people were complacent with their own mediocrity, and so it's little things. As a manager, I had my own little things that bothered me, and then there were obviously employees that suffered with just turning on a computer and logging in to do their job. So I find complacency with mediocrity, whether you're on a high scale or a low scale, is something that can be present in our lives. In terms of my dog training and the clients that I used to do, I would take every single client. You had $1, awesome. If you had a lot of money, awesome. Whatever you can do, I'm going to take you. And that complacency with this is just that level, that plateau of this is where my business is. Again, that's a self-limiting belief that kept me in a nutshell. That was a form of, if you will, the negative dog, not the overexcited dog. That's the dog that's kind of scared and shut down, and I'm not really doing the max that I can do because I'm in a safety blanket, if you will. So yeah.
So the key then, I think what you're saying is to motivation is to remove distraction.
Yeah, I would have to say, in order to be self-motivated, because that's what everybody wants, is to be self-motivated, to wake up in the morning and I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish. For me, every day I want to focus on one specific thing that I know I need to get done. The other things will fall into line, but there's one thing. In order to do that, you have to eliminate your distractions. That is the bottom line. So yeah, distractions prevent us from being motivated.
And basically, that's what you learned from the dogs, was you had to get them motivated to do what you wanted them to do.
Well, that's
you
correct.
Have to remove the distraction.
Yeah, and what I started realizing is that every single one of us, we have our own distractions, we are our own story, we're our own individual, and the same thing goes for a dog, right? Every single dog that I've trained, they're all different, but they all have very similar issues. And for me, I almost call it like a blind drop-off. Like, I don't need to hear the story. I can see what your dog is. It's either tail up, confident, doesn't know what to do, or it's tail down, shut down, and needs to get past something, a breakthrough. And on these, a lot of these life development meetings that you guys can go to, the whole point is to have that breakthrough, to find that one moment in your life, that one thing that prevents you from accomplishing your goals, whether it's to hit 10,000 people on Instagram, whether it's to make $100,000 your first year in business, whatever it is. There are so many different distractions, and whether that's your own ego, whether that's your own self-doubts, right? There's a lot of times in my first year in business where it was like, I'm very scared. I had a lot of that fear. I would say the first year in business, I was more, as much as I was excited for it, I had that tail down, I would say. My tail was very much down, and I wasn't, as focused. And that's the most important thing, is when you take away the distractions, your motivation will just start to channel through you, and then it's a focused form of motivation where you're able to actually get done the things that you want to get done, because you know that you'll achieve some type of reward. Whenever it gets to the end of the month, for me with dog training, I go, all right, so what do I know has been working for me in the past? If that's worked for me in the past, then that's something that I should do now, because I know that that'll work and that'll get me money. Don't do too many things, if you're doing your dentist outreach program and you always have one thing that works, it's the coffee trick, right? If that works, always do it, but then experiment new things. To go back to the motivation and with the dogs, I found that working with dogs that had extreme problems, that's where I found my motivation would actually come through, from helping the dog. So for me, when I would see a dog that had a lot of fear, that would show me the teeth, be very aggressive, had that, that clashing balance of, I don't know who you are and I'm not in a state of mind to be off duty. For me, working with a dog that so clearly didn't want help, right? Because that's how the human would see it, right? A dog, far I'm concerned, if Zilla was backed into a corner, growling like this, just like, don't come near me, and lashing out. In the human world, that's somebody who's saying, like, listen, I don't want your help. Don't give me your help. I'm fine being obese. I don't want to make money. I'm good being on my own. They're lashing out. Right? That's what they're doing. You're using your emotions. You're lashing out. So for us as a human, we use human psychology, and we go, oh, man, that person's lashing out. Man, this is what's going on. But really what it is it's somebody, just like a dog, who doesn't want to be this way. Right? Dogs, they don't get OCD, as far as I'm concerned. They don't get ADD. They don't get hyper ADD, all these things that are human, things that have started to become more trendy over the past 20 years. They really have. They did the rate of autism, and they said, I believe 1 out of 100 30 years ago, it was like 1 out of 100. Now it's 1 out of, or it's
18.
It's something ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's like, what do you mean? Everybody's got autism now. How did that happen? What are you talking about? It's a misdiagnosis. From the video that I watched, it's just a misdiagnosis. We just assume anybody who can't focus or does these things is doing it, but it's the same thing. If I'm like, hey man,
bananas in the morning you're eating.
Yeah, right.
Potassium.
It's all the sugar. It's all the high fructose corn syrup they're pumping into our veins in our kids. So it's a misdiagnosis. So I think it's the same thing, and that's what I was able to learn about myself from training dogs like Zilla and all the other dogs that I've trained. Is if a dog, right, can go from a rescue center with mange, super skinny, aggressive, very fearful, tail down, like the dog should be put down. In most cases, these dogs get put down. To take a dog like that, the worst of the worst, to rehabilitate them, to get them past their own fears and their phobias, and to get them to a point where they're like, what do you want to do? I'm ready to go. What are we doing? We're walking? Cool. You want me to lay down? I'm good with doing that, to the point where they can just relax. So for me, I would have to say the number one experience I got in terms of motivation was seeing that if all of these dogs can get past their obstacles, their distractions. Somebody outside? Zill, hey, relax. If they can get past all their fears, their distractions, all the things that ultimately prevent them from being the best that they can be. Because if you think about the end result, a really good trained dog. If you guys think about competition show dogs, I mean, they're very impressive, right? So if you think about a dog like that, that's the end result that does so many phenomenal things. That dog doesn't have those fears. It doesn't have those phobias, and it certainly doesn't have any distractions. What it does have is a positive relationship with its owner, and it's able to communicate effectively. And that's the same thing for most good businesses, is they know what their relationship is with the owner and what their role is, and they have that open communication where they know, okay, you know, like this is what's going on, and that's where you really see good things. The other key thing is within any business, you always want to feel safe. One of the things Simon Sinek talks about is why the military puts people in a position where they would like jump in the line of fire for somebody. And he does the speech on why leaders eat last. And he talks about a bunch of other things. And one of those important factors and elements is feeling safe in your workplace. If you're at your workplace and you're worried that you're going to get fired, if you're worried that if you don't hit your quota, you're going to, get in trouble, if you're worried that somebody else's performance is going to affect your pay or performance, so all these distractions, right, ultimately prevent us from feeling safe and from focusing and achieving that that grander mentality of what our potential is. Yeah.
Don't you think confidence is a key element to motivation?
It is.
Because when you look at this and you talk about what you're doing, I'm assuming you weren't like this all the time when you first started publicly speaking, because
No.
obviously you have a great confidence in what you're doing because you've been doing it for a while, and so you're comfortable in doing it. But when someone comes up and starts to do something and says, I'm trying, it's sure a sign they're just not confident in what they're
That's
doing.
another class, Greg.
Yeah,
But it's also true.
That's a class that I actually teach here.
yeah.
It's confidence.
Yeah, how to practice and develop.
Gotcha. And so I won't touch on it too much. But what I do want to say is the number one thing that I do with dogs is I build their confidence. And I'm going to start segueing into socialization because I guess you're perfect for it with all your cues. But confidence, right? So if you think about a dog whose tail is up, right? They feel super confident. They look like a show horse. They're, a show dog. They even have that special way they walk, and they're like, hi, how's it going, right? It's a proper introduction. They feel really confident with themselves. It's that Superman pose, that's what a dog has with their tail up. But the dogs never start off like that. I'll tell you right now, I would probably say 10 out of 10 dogs that I train, their tail is down. It's the number one thing I do. I do free lessons, and the number one thing I do during that lesson is I evaluate the dog. And I go, okay, so if you see your dog's tail is down, that's saying they're insecure, they're not feeling good about the situation, and you guys need to develop the relationship correctly, where the dog is off duty and can relax, because your dog right now is on duty. Not to go into it, but I consider the relationship between dog and human that of the Secret Service and the president. Your job's to be the Secret Service, and their job is to be the president. If they're the Secret Service, barking, reactive, leading on the walk, pulling you, doing these things, they're in control, which isn't good, right? You should have them off duty, and you should be the Secret Service going, hey, right now I'm in a room of people, my dog knows none of you are a threat. It's off duty, it's relaxing, it's like you're boring me. That's how your dog should be. If this dog was reacting, there's all sorts of people. My dog's in Secret Service mode. So there's a dynamic that needs to happen in terms of that. So when I get dogs, the first thing I do is I tell them, listen, don't give your dog affection if the tail's down, because you're rewarding it for being in a bad state of mind. But all those dogs go from being unconfident to confident. And it's because of socialization. So socialization is one of the most important things that we can do. As somebody who isolated themselves while I started my company and just trained dogs and really only worked with dogs and did my lessons, I felt like I needed socialization from other people. I needed to talk to people because I wasn't getting my socialization. The dogs were, but I wasn't. I felt the urge, I felt the need. In terms of my method for dog training of socialization, it's called selected socialization. Not many people know about it, not many people do it, but I call my programs summer camp at Harvard. Because if you sent your child to summer camp at Harvard versus summer camp anywhere else, I'm sure your kid's going to learn some Ivy League skills. They might be potty trained early. They might learn how to build a fire. You're being socialized with people, right, who have physical abilities, mental abilities, whatever it is that you want. There are things that you want to learn. They say if you want to learn how to be healthy, go hang around people who are healthier than you. right? If you want to become stronger, go to the gym and hang out with people who are stronger than you. If you want to learn more about dogs, go hang out with somebody who knows more than you about dogs. So it's very important to select who you socialize with. So for me, what I do is I personally have a pack of 5 dogs. They're all mine. Zilla's my house dog, retired service dog. She just hangs out all day. And then I've got my other dogs that I use for socialization purposes, because I know that my one dog, Shady, she'll take somebody who's scared, right? So if this was a dance party right now, right? You guys are all having a good time, and I'm over here in the corner like, oh my God, they're dancing, they're having a good time. Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't want to go over and ask her to dance. She might say no. Like I'm literally having a panic attack, like freaking out. Like, so like that's the typical dog that I train is in that state of mind. But if you can socialize them with somebody who's going to go over to that person and go, hey, Tag, you're it, and get them to play and get them in that state of mind where, hey, come on, join the party, come on, let's go. I'm not taking this too seriously, but you can come join the fun. So that's what one of my dogs does, is she'll take a dog that's scared and say, come on, let's go, be a dog, and doesn't give her the pressure. And socialization
So,
is...
so in the, let me just play this back, but I think I just heard. So you actually, your training is not just you, it's also you and your dog.
Yeah. Most of the training that happens is from the dogs. I just like to take the credit. I really don't do much. The dogs do everything. I mean, completely honest, I have 2 Rottweilers right now that are in an experiment of just going through training with the dogs. I walk them very, very limited, and I only really let them socialize with the dogs that I want them to learn their behaviors. And when they get free in the house, they go like this and they go on place, and they come over to me and they sit and they do all sorts of things. And I've never said the commands, never trained them
And
doing
you
it.
train your dogs, the specific dogs, to do specific things with the other dogs?
What do you mean?
They just, that's how they're naturally
So like,
wired?
for instance, Zilla has set behaviors, right? So if we let that lab loose right now, who has a lot of energy and wants to play, Zilla's gonna do what I call the turn down for what, and go, I'm not giving you any attention right now because your energy doesn't match my energy. I'm up here laying down calm, that dog's chewing on a bone to distract it from its own energy, right? So-
You're saying that one type of personality can influence another.
Yeah.
So.
For instance, a motivated person versus an unmotivated person, put them
Right.
together, you're
So-
gonna get that unmotivated person to do stuff.
Who normally wins out?
Who normally wins out?
Yeah,
From my experience, the positive.
the positive?
Yeah, I mean, if you put a dog that's scared with a dog like my Shady, every single time that dog's going to get it to play and feel like it's part of the pack. Because socialization is, I mean, dogs are pack animals. It's in their DNA, and we're similar. So, I guess now might be a good time if you, yeah.
Well, I once watched an episode of The Dog Whisperer where Caesar goes in, and very often he gets an assignment where he has to go in and the dog is unbelievably aggressive with other dogs.
Mhm.
Not so much with people, but with other dogs, and the dog can't socialize.
It's the homeschool theory. If I'm homeschooled, most of the people who have an aggressive dog, they go, my dog's great in the home. Then I take it out and it wants to kill everybody.
Or in the house.
Sometimes, yeah. And I call it the homeschool theory because if you think about like a kid who's homeschooled, doesn't have a lot of socialization, their parent says they're amazing, coolest kid in the world. Then they go out in public with their knapsack, not the coolest kid in the world. So you have to make sure that they get socialized even though they may not be able to in that sense. If you're going, yeah, that dog's aggressive with other dogs, it's only aggressive because it's reacting, sometimes to the connection of the owner, right? A lot of times if the dog's away from the owner, it acts differently, but the second that I hold it, now that there's a relationship developed, right? If I grab the leash right now, there's a role of, okay, I'm the Secret Service, I'm in charge, the dog needs to follow me. If I take off the leash, you can see how that dog's temperament is. So a lot of it in socialization is how do you act in a group and without the group.
So it's sort of like, they talk about IQ and EQ, and they're finding that the people that are the most successful in business actually have the greater propensity of them have a higher EQ, emotional quotient, or socialization skills, than they actually do IQ, intellectual quotient or skills.
Right, there are people who are book smart, but they don't get along with people well. And there are people who are very social, but they can't read a book. So yeah, I mean there are two different categories, and you're completely right. The introvert and the extrovert. And I think you were asking earlier, can you be both? And it's very true. I think we kind of, there's a couple books where they talk about the different type of personality types, and there's the magician, the warrior, the king, all these different archetypes, and I think we can embody them all. You don't have to just be one category by any means. But yeah, so socialization with dogs is very important, and I found that has effectively allowed me to socialize the right way. So I used to socialize like a high energy dog when I was on Instagram, and if you guys see my Instagram at all, I used to have under 1,000, organic followers. It was small. I was almost jealous of my ex-girlfriend who had 200 followers. I was like, oh my God, you have more than me. I don't even know what Instagram is. Now I've figured it out. But I used to socialize the wrong way. So when I socialized on social media, I would just like everybody. Like, oh, let me just follow you. Let me just like. They didn't know who I was. Like, there was no connection. There was no reason behind it. So being social the right way on social media platforms is also something that's very important.
For your business.
Yeah, very for your business. Most people, they probably self-branding is like a new. I think it's a newer concept because of social media. You are your own brand. So many people, they can max out their 5,000 people on Facebook, and then they have to create a public figure page. And 5,000 isn't that much in terms of Facebook friends. So self-branding is a huge trend right now, and social media is an outlet where you're able to put yourself in the game for exposure. And one thing that I kind of tell my friends all the time is you can literally put yourself out of business by not being in the game or by not posting. One thing that I learned from experience is I took a break. I stopped posting for a couple days and noticed that I lost some of my clients. I lost some of my customers. I stopped getting as many likes. And I noticed, well, what's going on? I was posting consistently, then I took a break and I did something else, and well, what happened? And that consistency affected the result, because these algorithms are so smart for socializing that if you're not in the game every single day saying, hi, I'm here, they'll bump you and someone else will fit in your spot, because we're creatures of routine. Everybody in here, for the most part, goes on Facebook every day? No?
No.
I love you. What do you do, though? You got to do something else.
No, I occasionally go on LinkedIn, but I have.
I go
I'm
on
a social
LinkedIn
media guy.
almost every day, but not Facebook. Yeah.
No, I
Does
don't even have
LinkedIn
an
allow
account.
you to like stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They do posts and stuff?
Mhm.
Okay, so when you go onto your social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you guys typically have a routine, right, where you guys are going to like certain posts, right? And I wouldn't say you like the same people. It's not like I'm looking out for you and I'm gonna like your stuff. You're scrolling,
Right.
and you naturally click what you like. I can honestly tell you I don't know whose picture I liked today, but I know that I liked some pictures today because they were on the feed. So if you take that into account, that we're all consistently running on a routine on social media, and if you decide I'm not going to be in there today for that consistent like, you'll literally get thrown out. And once you get thrown out from the social society, it's very hard to get back in, because there's already people that are in line getting those tickets. So I found that the way that I was socializing, even on social media platforms, was super important, because they're little groups and they're little cliques and they're personalities and they're people. So for me, socializing like a dog is way better than socializing the way I, as a human, think socializing should be, right? Socializing as a human being is, I'm at a social networking event, right? There's the Wasted Grain event tomorrow, right? You said it's tomorrow?
Tomorrow, 5 to 7.
Tomorrow, 5 to 7 Wasted Grain, so hopefully we'll all go. If we guys all go to that event, right, and I do it the way that I thought, I'm gonna go up and say, hi, I'm Dylan, I have a dog training company, what do you do? And then you tell me a little of that, and that's it, and then I'm gonna say hello to you. But there's no substance, there's nothing really there that actually creates a relationship that you guys are part of a pack, a clique, where you guys are part of a tribe, as some of these other places are calling. So it's very important to socialize the right way. So when you think about the way that a group of dogs socializes, first off, they don't socialize alone, ever. You have to have 2 dogs to socialize, for one. So you want to make sure that you're not alone. The number one thing that I could say in terms of advice for when you socialize, whether you're going to a network event, whether you're going to a leadership conference, Tony Robbins gives a speech, whatever you're doing to meet people, if you're not doing it effectively, I don't even know why you're doing it. It's like saying I'm trying to network right? Are you guys trying to network or meet new people and do stuff, or are you guys actually doing it? And there is a difference. So socializing, if you look at it like a group, it'll boost your confidence. So whenever you go out, think about it, the lone man going out to a club or to a bar to pick up a girl versus the group, the entourage mentality. You want to be part of a group. Everyone may play their part, but within that group, people rise up. When you're by yourself, you don't have anyone to bounce off of. So socializing within your own group to then socialize is a huge advantage that I've found. And yeah, I mean, even if it's just one person, it's beneficial to socialize in a group within a group than to just go. Yeah.
That you're speaking to something that Seth Godin is probably one of the modern masters of marketing of our generation. He's a really neat, intelligent, original thinking geek about society and philosophy and marketing. And he wrote a book based on exactly what you're talking about called Find Your Tribe. And once you learn how to speak the tribe's language, you are a member of the tribe. And that's what you want to do when you socialize or you're marketing your company, your business, or your services, is learn the tribal speak and really get immersed in the tribe so that people will feel that you're instead of an outsider trying to sell them something, you're amongst us.
And the best way to do that is by effectively communicating. And I find that within a tribe, within a group, even this moment that we're sharing right now, whether you agree with everything that I say, right, or you don't, that's okay. And communication is not me trying to persuade you that everything that I'm saying right now is 100% fact, and everything that you might disagree with me is wrong. It's not about persuading somebody necessarily or selling them on a belief system. Effective communication is the fact that I might have a perspective on how the sky is a lavender blue tonight, and he thinks it's more of a turquoise. I have to respect him for his opinion, and if we have that respect for what each other is saying, even though we don't have to necessarily be trying to sell each other, that's when you have that harmonious relationship where you guys can not be distracted, right? If I'm in a group of friends and we're all trying to decide where we're going out to, what marketing event, are we going to go to Tony Robbins? Do I want to go to Simon Sinek when I want to do this? And we spend a half an hour arguing about things, or we spend our time more effectively. That's what ultimately matters. So, yeah, I mean, it's very important. Socialization for me is huge. And I know you mentioned that I'm confident when I get up in here, but I wasn't always necessarily confident. I was class president in high school, so by then I felt pretty good about myself, but bless you. But middle school, I was still a fat kid. My weight's fluctuated my entire life. I was a fat kid who got picked on, so I used to eat lunch with the teachers. I did not like speaking in general. For me to want to be the class president and to run for that and to win was like unheard of, for somebody. When I got to high school, I transformed myself, got into sports and did some stuff, but no, I think it's been the best thing that I can say about dog training that I learned is to work through your fear. When I got bit by a dog, I could have said, that was scary. That dog took a chunk out of my thigh. I'm not messing with it, right? And allowed the fear to overwhelm me. Or I could do what I did and train the dog and work through my fear. And that's the number one thing that people, I think, might have some difficulty with in terms of finding their breakthrough moment is getting past their fear. Just like speaking up here tonight, some people might find this scary. The only way to get through it is to get through it.
Well, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the Dog Whisperer show, but I used to love that show, and because it was the lessons were so true about like the lessons you're talking about in this class, and Caesar would say something so simple, just like learning how to stand your ground, and show a dog through your stance how you're in charge and you're confident, and that dog can't hurt you. you know, and how that translates to how you are in a meeting, how you are in your day is so relevant. I mean, and you know, you never thought about it, because like when you look at a dog, sometimes it's, you know, snarling at you, you know, or you're looking at somebody that you think is gonna, you know, try to tear you apart. If you have a more confident stance, or a stance that, you know, I really know what I'm doing, it can change the very energy and the dynamic. He often talked about the energy between him and the dog.
Yeah, well, I mean, energy is huge. It is definitely a role that goes into it. When I walk my dogs, one thing people know about, I don't really say commands. I'm not a fan of saying commands. I challenge a lot of my clients to get the result without the words, because the words tend to distract us from what we want. And what I found is I'll have a client who will go, sit, Jimmy, sit. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing right now? Like, I'm feeling overwhelmed by this experience. Don't say any words. And they'll go, I got it sat. It's like, because it
So
can
you
focus.
use hand commands?
Occasionally, I use my hands as a way for them to see what gives them affection. So if they want affection, normally like a dog will run up to you, I'll put my hands up so they see where they can get the affection, but they don't necessarily get it, right? Some people will go, oh, look, a dog, and they're giving the affection immediately. I kind of show them, hey, this is where it is. If I put a dog on place, I might show them the affection, and then I'll take it away and show them, hey, it's here, but you don't need it right away. But yeah, I very rarely will use a command, just because it doesn't effectively allow me to do my job, I guess. I like to really be in tune with the energy with that dog. I'll throw the leash over she's sleeping, but I'll, sorry, I had to wake you, Zilla. I thought you'd be more of a distraction. Shh. So when I walk my dog, sometimes I'll just throw this over, and the dog will be right there. And I'll do, you know, like a little, like, you know, workout or whatever, and I'll do my jumping jacks, and I'm walking the dog. And the dog's just walking with me. And just like you said, you have to walk with confidence, just like with the dog. I've had old ladies, bless them, they have a big dog, just like that lab, and they put the leash on, and they're holding it like this, and I go, take a first step, and they're not even sure how to take the first step, and their insecurities will allow their dog, even if it's a service dog, to shut down because they're reading off of each other's energy. I did a lesson with this one lady at a grocery store, and she walked in, and she didn't know like what to do, like the first step. She was overwhelmed by the experience of, okay, I need to like have this dog like respond to me. And I said, listen, what do you need to get from the grocery store right now? She said, well, I need to get detergent. I said, well, go get the detergent. She goes, okay. She starts walking to get the detergent. The dog just walks with her. When she got out of her mental state of being distracted by, oh my God, this is overwhelming, right? And just example, I'm up here giving a speech. Oh my God, there's people. There's not a lot of them. What's going on? She's on her phone. I see she's on her phone. He's on his phone. Oh my God. If I'm distracted, right, then I can't talk because I'm distracted and I'm looking. And the same thing goes for a dog that wants to be a service dog and walk right by you and just make sure that you guys are in tune. And our energy is everything. So I'll do lessons with cute little old ladies and tell them, walk like your Princess Diana. I've done lessons with little 4-year-old girls, and they have Great Danes that are knocking them over. I say, you're Lady Gaga shooing away the press. And I'm telling you right now, the Great Dane leaves her alone. So confidence, the way that you hold yourself is very important, especially with dogs. And to take a minute about, I guess, the history of dogs, if you guys don't know it too well, but the history of dogs and the domestication of dogs is very, very in tune with the domestication of humans. This is something that happened over 800,000 years ago. And if